Hi, and welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly Podcast. I'm Javan,
And I'm Guff.
and today we're going to talk about a topic that kind of popped into my head just a few days ago.
Okay.
I was thinking about it because Steam Summer Sale came up and a bunch of games came out, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's
Gotcha.
all this, all that. And it's the difference between open-ended games and games with a definitive end.
Right. Okay.
So, to kind of frame this a little bit, I want to talk about something like a game I just picked up called Astronauts,
okay.
and a game that I just recently beat, Baldur's Gate 3.
Right.
Now, a game with a definitive end doesn't necessarily mean like there's no replayability.
Right.
Like it's a game that you can you can go in and play it again and again and again and do a different run every so often. But the idea of an open-ended game, which I feel like you've played quite a bit more than I have, especially when it's like the survival stuff.
The open-ended games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like kind of almost like a make your own fun. Like
Right.
there's like a couple buckets of it, right? There's
Right.
like the open-ended game where like you go, there isn't really a set storyline,
Right.
and you go out and you collect resources and you make a better ship, let's say, and then you go back out in a sci-fi setting and you salvage more parts for a ship, and then you just kind of do that loop over and over again with no definitive end.
Right.
That's kind of what I think of like with an open-ended game.
Right.
Or there's even the idea of like on the further end of the spectrum towards games with a definitive end of like your RTSs or your MOBAs where you play a match.
Right.
Or a like Counter-Strike.
Right.
Where you play a match and it's 20 minutes and then you go and play it again. So I guess like what do you tend to gravitate more towards?
Yeah, obviously the open-ended games. I'm playing through Baldur's Gate, and I've decided that I'm at that point in my life that I don't really want to play games that are decided. Does that make sense? Like the closed-ended game, the games with an ending. I feel like it's not casual enough. I'm a very casual player anymore. I used to be considerably less casual, especially when I was playing MMOs and stuff. I was a very hardcore, gotta play all the time, gotta go.
Yeah.
But the older I get, the more responsibilities I get, the less hardcore I want to be. I mean, I'm literally playing Stardew Valley, which is definitely not a hardcore game. It's a very casual game.
Yeah.
And I'm playing another game called Dinkum. It's very casual. You know, and if I'm on the Xbox, I'm playing Slime Rancher. Like, I know there's ends to these games, but there's also just like an open-ended play. Like, you can just do what you want casually. There's no real restriction. It's just kind of do it.
There's no like outward time pressure or anything.
No. And I don't know. I guess that's kind of where I'm at now. I guess I don't mind a good, like, even Baldur's Gate. I'll finish it. I will. But boy, you know, there's a few times in there it's just frustrating. And I don't want to be hardcore. So then I hit the moment where they push you right to the edge of defeat and victory and just kind of push you really hard to that edge. And lots of times you just lose a couple times before you figure it out. Mm-hmm. I just really don't want to do that too much anymore. Like, I just don't.
So I guess when it comes to like closed off games or games with a succinct end,
Right.
do you find yourself playing them more for just like the story at this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess now, like, Baldur's Gate, one of the reasons I stuck with it so long is, one, I love RPGs. I just love them. They're good stories. But with Baldur's Gate, there's a lot of little things in there, whether it's talking to every animal you come across, because every animal in the game has some sort of dialogue. Even the stupid rats. You know, you may talk to 10 rats and none of them will say anything to you or just grunt at you. But then there's the one that just has about like mile long worth of dialogue. And you're like, I like that part. I don't like I don't know. I guess I could play it on easy mode. I guess I could just start switching my difficulties to casual story mode, and that would probably make life 10 times easier on me. I'm still kind of stubborn, though. I don't like to take the easy route all the time. But I do find myself definitely going towards that way. And I noticed that in a lot of in the open world style games now, they're kind of catching on to that whole hidden gem thing. Like we were just talking earlier about Satisfactory. You played a lot of hours of it, and there's parts of the world that you haven't been to yet, even though you have
A lot
crazy
of hours,
amount of hours into it.
Yeah.
But there's still little areas of the map you didn't explore. I guess that's what I really like anymore. I don't care that if at the end of Satisfactory I fly off the planet and I go start another one. Like that doesn't matter to me anymore.
So I guess like
as much.
So then that's probably why you gravitate more towards open-ended games too, because like in the example I threw out earlier of Astronauts, the whole setup of the game is like you're a kind of a factory slave laborer that takes apart giant derelict ships in a shipyard.
Right.
You save up money, you buy your own ship, and now you're going out to like cut up ships and do all that. But like you go onto a ship and there'll be like a dead body on one of them with a PDA in his hand, and then you're like, oh no, so you hack the PDA and see the last text messages they sent, and
it's like, oh, that's cool.
You try to piece together everything, and like I think that's a really good principle to put in just every game.
Right. Yeah.
But I do know, like, in the linear story games, like you were talking about, Baldur's Gate 3 did a good job, and Larian has actually always done a good job of this. Divinity Original Sin 2 was very good about this, of making the world feel alive by talking to, like, random things.
Just everything, just clicking on things and doing things, they just do it.
And it's funny because I'm actually playing through Baldur's Gate 1 right now.
Right.
And I forgot how many, like, little quests and just strange things, even in the first 5 hours of the game, just how much interesting stuff there is.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot to do in them games.
Mm-hmm. And I think with a CRPG, it's very, very easy to do. But it's also kind of like in those games, leaving them open-ended is a little more difficult because now you have to plan for it. It's kind of like Skyrim. But even though that's a bad example. But the CRPG is like the isometric top-downs.
Right.
Like, what do you do after you beat the main story?
Right.
Like, what is there for you to do?
Yeah.
You wait for DLC, right?
Right.
There's not really go back and do this and that because they're trying to tell a story.
Yep.
And I kind of like that. And I also find myself now reloading a lot less. I'm kind of going the opposite way that you are.
Yeah.
I'm playing a lot more like Iron Man, where I get one save file.
Right.
And every 5 minutes, it autosaves on top of it or something. And so I'm stuck with the decisions that I've made.
Right.
And that's fun, but it also caused me to restart Baldur's Gate 3 5 times.
Right, yeah.
Completely from the get-go.
Yep.
And there wasn't even an Iron Man. That was a self-imposed Iron Man.
Yep.
So I tend to lean the other way of, like, I want the game to be more difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be that way. I don't know. I guess I've lived through enough difficulty. I just don't want to do too much anymore. But if I do pick difficulty, I'll just go back and play something like Caves of Cud. Because that's a game that gives you everything you want and a little extra that you don't want.
In an alternate universe too, I think that you would have really appreciated the Dark Souls games.
Okay.
Because it's like they kind of have that rogue style difficulty curve where what you know about the game is your quote-unquote meta progression.
Yeah.
You know that if you walk over this bridge, that guy up there is going to shoot an arrow at you and you're going to fall off.
Right.
So if the next time you go on that bridge you don't roll, well, that's on you, bro. Like,
right.
And like if you didn't look up on that ledge and watch where you were going before you went across the bridge the first time, you're going to have a bad time.
Right.
So,
gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with gaming anymore.
Yeah.
At least that video gaming. I just want to be casual. I don't know. I'm just that way right now. Maybe I'll change. I don't know.
So, another of the interesting ones. So let's talk about like some of the shorter, like, would you call an RTS, like, let's say StarCraft, like if you're going to play multiplayer, would that fall under the like short, succinct game where you play just a bunch of short games?
Right.
And each one's kind of its own thing? Or is that kind of like an open-ended one where you can just kind of keep playing it and keep playing it?
I think that's kind of open-ended.
You think it's open? I mean,
you can just replay it forever if you want.
Yeah.
And,
and you're not really progressing. The only thing progressing is your skill, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't even now though. I mean, I did go back and play a lot of that stuff. Played Age of Empires and played StarCraft and played all kinds of them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of funny too because like some open-ended games I just lose my mind over.
Right.
Like I just way too many hours in them.
Yep.
And then other ones I'm just like, eh. Like a great example of this is like games like Deep Rock Galactic,
Right.
Vermintide, even stuff like Lethal Company.
Okay.
Like they're fun, but after you've done it once, there's nothing really like to do.
Right.
You know, it's
Right. Yeah.
it's just the same thing. Which I mean, I guess could be said of anything because like I play a lot of Factorio and Satisfactory and games like that, and quite honestly, like I could see the argument where they're kind of the same.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, there's definitely different. I think Factorio and Satisfactory are completely you're challenging different types of brain power in those games than you would in StarCraft. StarCraft is literally like. I mean, it's all resource management. Don't get me wrong, but it's a different type of resource management. You won in StarCraft, you're trying to keep your base safe against the opponent, depending on what they're playing and how your different strategies. Satisfactory, you're just literally trying to optimize everything to the key, so you don't have to waste resources, you don't have to waste time, because one wrong conveyor belt with one wrong curve in it could throw off your whole system.
Yeah, and it's kind of the like mental, I don't want to call it like mental arithmetic, but it's like
one's like running a marathon, the other one's like running a sprint.
Yeah. StarCraft is like how quickly can you kill? It's like
Right.
blitz chess versus long open term chess.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
Or classical chess.
Yep.
Like you have all the time in the world to make your decisions, but if you make the wrong decision,
right.
Whereas making quick decisions but gaining slow advantage over every turn,
Yeah, it's just different types of games and
it's kind of funny now that I think about it because like StarCraft, the RTSs, and like Satisfactory games, they're kind of like strategy / puzzle / resource management. They all kind of fit in that side of the brain, so to speak. Right. Whereas like the Vermintides, the Destinies, the Warframes, all the like shooters or the co-op party games,
right?
Like Vermintide, I just said Vermintide. Deep Rock, that's another one.
Yep.
Even Darktide, 40K Darktide. It's almost like these games are. It's like sitting down and watching TV, but like passively watching it to me.
Yeah.
Where like I could click the things and shoot things, but like I'm not challenging my brain.
Right.
I'm just using muscle reaction and.
Yeah. I've noticed. This is just something since we've started playing as groups and using Discord and getting groups together, and my exposure to a lot more different players. There's a lot of players that like to play like five hours of a game and just to try it, and then maybe play 10 hours or 20 hours and then move on to the next game and the next game and the next game. There's those players that want to try every game. I'm not that guy. I don't think I ever will be, because I mean, from the time that I've been playing, I've seen people buy 50 or 60 Steam games in the last year, where I bought my share. Don't get me wrong. I probably bought 10 games last year. I've probably played 3 of them, So it's like, I'm just like, I'm not a guy who's like, I want to finish like casually if I'm playing. Like we were playing Medieval Dynasty, which is a very casual, open-ended game.
Yeah,
it's
not
kind
really
of
an end to
I mean,
it.
there's kind of like once you get your city and it's a city and it's you got all your peasants and everything's upgraded, it's kind of the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But there's people that play that until they feel like, okay, well, it's just going to be too much more time to get to the next step. They're the guys who move on to the next game. They're not. There's no more interest in it for them.
I've noticed that a lot, like with the factory games.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say out of all the people I've played like the factory games with, there's probably like 2, maybe 3 that commit for the long haul.
Yeah.
Because like once you realize how much further it is to the next step, like it's an exponential thing.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
absolutely. And people are just like, oh.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, holy crap, that took forever. We got steel processing. Okay, so we're almost done.
Yeah.
And it's like, no,
Right.
no, you're not. No, we got a long way to go.
Yeah, that happened to me playing Ark the last time I played Ark 2.
Yeah, Ark.
Day
Ark
one
is
we
of those
had
ones,
probably 7 players.
Mm-hmm.
Day 2 we had 4, and then by the time day 12 comes around, we have maybe 3, and I think that'd have been it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2, nothing against their play style, but they were like racing as hard as they could to the end to get all the best pets, which is fine. You need to do that. but there's so much more to that than just getting the biggest bird or the biggest dinosaur.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much more. There's like whole tech tree. There's whole bosses. There's whole extra stuff to do still. And but everybody, when they get the biggest dinosaurs, they're done. That's what they think Ark is, and it's all over. And they're like, to me, I'm just like, I want to get all the content. And a good example would be Astroneer. You and I played all the way through that.
Yeah.
And I've played that, and I played that a lot before you even started playing. Like, I was close. I had completed 2 or 3 of the, but it just gets to be, it's that exponential.
Yeah.
So then when you joined, I'm like, okay, I think with 2 of us, we can get through this exponential problem.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of grind.
Because now you're half the work.
Right. And it did. It made a big
Oh
difference.
yeah.
Then
No,
we completed the game.
I mean, honestly, we
So,
kind of beat that game pretty quick.
yeah, and that was fine.
But we also had the attitude of like, let's just go
Yeah.
through the game kind of as intended, and just punch through it in like a couple weeks and just see what happens.
Yeah, no, it worked out good, and I think that's literally, I don't mind playing that type of game as long as I have the right players to play with. I don't
Yeah.
want to play with just random people who give up 10 minutes into the game.
And speaking on the whole like thing of like, I don't mind, because we've talked about this. If I can get a game for $5 and play it for 5 hours and
Right.
then decide I don't like it, I don't care.
Right.
I can move on from that. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, no,
It
I
literally
agree.
doesn't bother me. And so like the whole idea of like jumping games is fine, but like when I find a game that I really like, sorry, I'm gonna sit there
Yeah,
and play it.
yeah,
because this
I
is
want
what
to just
like.
play it. Yeah, I don't want to move on to the next game in 3 weeks just because a new game came out.
Yeah.
That's what happened with me and Baldur's Gate. We were in the middle. I think we might have been playing Astroneer when it came out.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, well, I want to finish Astroneer. And I think there was another game I was playing too. And I'm like, I just want to get these 2 done before I go to Baldur's Gate.
Yep.
I already played the beta of Baldur's Gate, so I knew what I was getting into. I just knew that it was going to be a time sink. And I didn't even start playing Baldur's Gate again until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean that's what I did. I bought Baldur's Gate. I don't think I ever actually. No, I played through most of Act 1
Yep.
once, and then I can't remember what came out, but I got the bug for something else, and then I just kind of put it on the back burner. But I hadn't actually played like a single player RPG
Right.
or even a game that had like a definitive end
Right.
for a long time.
Yeah, no.
And then once I beat Baldur's Gate, I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to have a game, buy it, beat it, and kind of just like be able to walk away.
Right.
Kind of nice.
Yeah.
Kind of nice. I missed that.
Yeah, no, that there is some satisfaction to that for sure. It was like when we beat Astroneer. Like I still want to kind of go back and play a little bit, but I'm like, I don't really need to.
Yeah. The
Like if someone said, "Hey, let's play it," I'd do it,
yeah.
but I don't have
But
to.
you don't
now.
feel obligated now to go back
Right.
and beat it.
Yeah, I don't have any obligation to go back and play the finish the game again. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But it's really interesting, and it was something I kind of wanted to talk about, the idea of like games that have a definitive end
Yep.
and games that don't. Because honestly, in the past probably 5 years, I would say 90% of the games I played, if not more, have been games without an end.
Right.
Because it's been a really popular.
yeah, it did. They've made a lot of games come
I mean,
out.
I mean, think about it, like Call of Duties and even some of the mainstream stuff doesn't really have like an end anymore.
no.
The only thing that really kind of stayed with the formula of having like, okay, play the game, beat it, you're done, has been the RPGs and the JRPGs.
Yeah.
But like roguelikes and roguelites became so popular. And,
Right.
You know, there's just been so many games out that have been like infinite replayability.
Yeah, it's definitely a competition to keep your attention as long as they can.
Well, and that boils back to games as a service kind
Yep.
of deal too.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a whole nother monster. Games as a service, I mean, a good example would have been Pal World. That game could, and it potentially should, and there's still plenty of people playing it. It's not like it's dead. There's still a lot of people playing it. It's just the company saves a little money now when there's not 2 million people playing, because now the servers don't cost as much. Which I read an article, by the way, on that. They're talking about the company's not unhappy that they don't have 2+ million people on the servers at all times. They're like, we actually saving a little money now. Microsoft and them don't have to put out so much money for the servers, and now we can develop the game with the money we're making
Yeah.
instead of throwing it at the server to keep the server up. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of casual now, and I'll play other games. I just want to play with people who have the same idea that I do. If 4 or 5 people want to get together and play through a game, then I want that. It's kind of like what we do in the store. I just want a commitment. Hey, if you're going to play this tabletop RPG or this board game, even if it's a 10-session board game, I want you to stay for 10 sessions. Like, I don't want you to. Same thing now. I just want to, if I'm going to play multiplayer, I want whoever's playing with me to commit to just going through and at least experience all the content.
I think that, now that I think about it too, that was a big reason why, for so many years, I didn't play games with a definitive end.
Right.
Because I was playing a lot of multiplayer.
Yeah.
And if you try to play a multiplayer game with a definitive end, like you said, you start with 10 people. By the end, you have 3 people.
Yeah, and it gets rough.
Eco was a great example of that.
Yeah, Eco was a very good example. Yep.
You know, that game was really fun. I really liked that game. But there just wasn't enough of us left.
No, it makes it very tough. When
and
you
so,
only
like, I just, you know, I'm like, I knew I wasn't having fun, so I said, I'm going to remove myself from this.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets rough at the end when there was 3 or 4 people trying to do the jobs of 10 people.
Yeah, and it was kind of unfortunate, too, because, like, it's one of those games, like, had someone logged in and just done something for an hour or 2,
Yeah.
it would have been fine.
Yeah.
You know, it just a little, but I get it too. It's like you don't play games to have a job.
Right.
Like I totally understand.
Right.
But there is that whole idea of the commitment to finish a game together.
Well, I think also, gets back to that finishing a game and not finishing a game, open-ended games. Open-ended games, I think people tend to burn out quicker on. Because there's no end. Yeah, you could just play forever and you can play 20 hours a day. But when you're playing multiplayer, this is my whole take on this, is you have to agree, and I've come across this a lot in a lot of the games I've played with players, is if you all don't schedule times to play together, like Stardew, for instance, if, say, the 2 people who are the one person who hosts it and the other person that plays with her all the time logs in and they play while we're not there, you and I and whoever else is playing will be so far behind. There's no reason for us to even want to play at that point.
Yeah, we don't have any like agency in the farm or anything.
Yeah, right now, you know, you look at all of our stats and all of our abilities and stuff, you know, you get a little books, and not that it's a competitive game.
No.
But it is kind of, at some point, we need to keep up with each other game. Because you have all those little, like your combat and all stuff raised together, and all of us are pretty close still.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and, you know, I feel like Eco was one of the best experiments we had.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Stardew, once everybody can do everything, do you really need to work together at that point?
Right.
That's the thought experiment, right? Where Eco forced you to work with people.
Oh yeah, you had to. Yeah, there was no ifs, ands, or buts.
And so, but like, and that's weird because that game had a succinct end.
Yeah.
30 days, game's over.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yep, it was literally the way it was supposed to be.
So, it's an interesting, that game, I think, made me learn a lot more about how people play games and how I play games.
Yeah.
Like, it was a good, like, training wheel game, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's a good way. For me, games like that, I don't mind trying those games out because I definitely can learn about other players that I'm playing with and what to expect from them.
Yeah.
You know, I know that I'll just use my buddy Toffer. So, shout out Toffer. I know that if I play a game with him, he's in it for the long haul because the dude does not back down. Playing games with him sometimes, especially in open format, we're playing like 7 Days to Die or Ark, he'll just outgrind because he does not stop. He's just an unstoppable machine because on his free time, his processing power has to go somewhere, and it goes to those games. So I know that there's a few people I can always rely on to play to the end. And so I do try to kind of go towards those people for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just, again, the golden lesson of this podcast, so to speak, is the clear and crystal communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we always go back to that, it seems
it goes back to casual. That's kind of just where I prefer casual over the...
Yeah, because now there's no pressure for anyone to show up, and you can kind of just do it.
No, and I think Stardew is perfect for that.
Yeah.
Initially, I mean, obviously, if you miss too many sessions of Stardew, that's gonna suck because you're the one person that's falling so far behind everybody that you're relying on them to. Yeah, but you know, you can do anything you want anyway. Like I can go fishing if I want. I just don't. I don't like fishing in that game. So
I like it a lot.
Yeah, there's other people love it. You guys are catching, 3 fish a minute. I'm like catching 1 fish a day if I'm lucky. Like it's just. So bad for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
But yeah, I think that's a decent discussion on. I don't even know if this is just open ended versus succinct end games. It's just kind of gaming in
Yeah,
general.
it was just kind of gaming in general. It does kind of tie back to open ended games though, and that for me, open ended games. That's just kind of what I like to do now. It's just I like casual. I'm not. I feel bad if I join something and I can't be hardcore enough for them because some people want to play really hard, like really hard. And I think there's been a few games that have showed me that I just don't fit well with those kind of players.
Yeah, I mean, meditating on that a little bit. I know, like Helldivers, I was liking it quite a bit, and then it was like no one really wanted to do the hardest difficulties anymore,
Right?
Or like. I don't know. Like I'm so used to like in games like that. I always go back to like Monster Hunter,
Right.
and like how at the highest level, everybody has to be on their game because the health pool goes way up.
Right.
Everybody's got to do their job and do it well and not mess up.
Right.
And there's just that. It kind of goes back to like playing on like a sports team or something where you're trying to have 4 to 5 people do something at a very high level against 4 to 5 other people.
Right.
That's why Dota was such a brain tickler for me.
Right.
I've always liked that, and I think
I used to like that stuff. I'm not competitive anymore.
Yeah.
My drive is just not there for that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at in my life. Anyway, tomorrow it might be different. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm focusing on other things. Like I'm focusing on the businesses. I'm focusing on my nonprofit. I'm just busy doing all that
getting
stuff.
your challenge and your intellectual
It's like,
stimulation.
man, when I want to play a game, I just want to mindlessly do it. Like I don't really want to challenge. It's like we have a 7 Days to Die server coming up, and I'm gonna play it because my buddy's hosting it, and he wants as many players as he possibly can. He wants to test his server. He wants to, he runs his server himself. So he just wants to kind of do it and just play. And he's my best friend, so it's like, of course I'm gonna try. I'll go play with him.
Yeah.
But man, I know I'm gonna hate it. I just know I'm gonna hate the grind. I'm gonna hate I like the casual aspect of it because I can log in and play, and I can take advantage of everybody else leveling up because it's not a leveling game, and that's fine. But I know it's gonna be a grind, and I know there's gonna be a lot of players initially. Day one, there's probably gonna be 10, 15, maybe even 20 players. But by day 5 or 10, like real days, not in-game days, there's probably going to be 4 or 5 of us. And then by a week later, it's probably just me and Toffer. So I hope it's not that way. If any of you guys are listening and enjoying the server, you should just stick with it for a while. Don't just get to that halfway mark and call it good. Like, let's see what happens at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's no real end to it, but there is content.
There's like end game.
There's
content.
a lot, kind of. There's like super bosses, and they've changed it up quite a bit now. But there's a lot of like schematics and recipes and stuff, that you can get them. And that goes with that's why I like to play those games, open-ended games, because at the end there is stuff there. You just have to get to it.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a group of players that are dedicated.
It's not you're not playing to find a credits.
Right.
You're not playing to watch your credits.
No.
You're playing to basically almost elate yourself and get high enough that that
it doesn't matter.
That nothing matters.
Yeah, right.
You try,
Now I can just walk around if I want and just explore it. I can look at every piece of art that someone's put in the building.
Yeah, it's almost like Finding Comfort is the final boss of those games.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good description. I like that one. I'm going to use that.
So, alrighty. Well, I think that's it for this one.
All right.
Catch you guys on the next one.
Next time.